Dear learners, you are all very known about this perspectives of management subject. So how far we are discussing, there are a number of concepts related to how the managerial activities and the functionalities are doing and going to easy making of the managerial activities to discharge of the different services. Am I right? So as related to today also, we are taking a good concept related to management and how the organization has going on to taking each and every management related activities with the collaboration of all their staff, and as well as how far the management has taking off with respect of their considering their objectives and reach out to their objectives with at the end of their results what they are expected. Am I right? So here we taken a good concept for in every organization we are considering to take an advantage of while taking all people who are working together with a good coordination and a good communication between their discharge of their activities. Am I right? So let's see, today we are going to the topic called as decentralization. Am I right? So this the decentralization, as earlier we are also discussing the concept of organizing. Here the organizations, as a look at on, there's a two ways. There's a centralization way and as well as a decentralization. According to your syllabus and as per the content, here we are going to discussing today the decentralization topic. Am I right? Of course, you know very well the decentralization topic, the concept are very knowable to every organizational people, especially who are working into different managerial cadres. Am I right? So decentralization refers to the systematic effort to delegate to the lowest level all authority as kept that which can only be exercised at the central point. Am I right? So here the central point will say whenever here the centralization organizations, whereas the centralization we said the authority only has been a particular authorized people, and he had to be that played all related activities matter with their subordinates. Am I right? But what we say here is the decentralization is considering with the placement of authority with the reference to responsibility. So it means dispersal of decision-making power to lower levels of the organization. Am I right? So decentralization implies the distribution of management, authority, planning, directing, controlling, and coordinating, as well as among the executives at all levels in the organization. So under this decentralization, major decision making like authority is given to the departmental heads. Am I right? So decentralization is not same as the delegation, but the delegation means delegating the authority and responsibility from one individual to another, while decentralization is a broad concept which means a scattering of authority throughout the organization. Am I right? Let's see the general meaning of this decentralization and as well as some definition from managerial perspectives and thoughtful Emerita. And see, this the decentralization means the dispersal of decision making power to lower levels of the organization. Am I right? So that under the decentralization, major decision making authorities given to the departmental heads, so that we say the every corner of the organization to reach out what they are really have to be that discharging their duties and activities with comes their desired objectives. So in the sense of Henry Fayol has stated that the decentralization is everything that goes to increases the importance of the subordinates role is decentralization. Everything which goes to reduce is centralization. That's the opposite we are here said. And in the according to Louis Alain, Decentralization refers to systematic effort to delegate to the lowest levels all authority except that which can only exercise at the central point. Am I right? So in the similarly, Kunj and O'Donnell has highlighted a decentralization of authority is a fundamental phase of delegation to the extent that the authority is not delegated. It is called as a decentralized. Am I right? And from Keith Davies, while the distribution of authority and responsibility must be made to the smallest sized unit that is practical throughout an organization. It is an advanced from form of delegation to the operation units. And finally, we confirm the definition from the McFarland as it defines decentralization as a degree to which an organization place authority and management permits. So comes to a decentralization refers to creating a number of relatively autonomous units under a central organization and delegating appropriate power to them. Am I right? So it is a policy of the top management towards employees development programs. So in a decentralization, the decision-making power will be dispersed like a widespread. It is a systematic effort to delegate authority to the lowest level. Am I right? So that's we are observing in a modern organization. There are a lot of decentralization organizations. I mean, and comes to when the decentralization organization is come to exist, is any factors determining to the degree of decentralization? Yes. The size of the organization here, one of the basic point, the size of the organization, whether the organization has a wide range of the people and there are a lot of specialization related to the departments. This majorly the number of branches or the capacity of the work is more. That comes to decentralization organization. Am I right? Another one is the history of the organization. So the history of the organization also comes to one of the factors to determining the decentralization, whether the organization has a build up as a more than 10 or 15 years or the more than the 20 years. They make a lot of managerial related activities so that the organizations definitely has to be that comes to the decentralization. Am I right? Another point that is the geographical expenses. So whereas geographical expenses we had comes to that the organization is definitely has to be that a decentralization, because when the organization has started the new branches, for example, it is located at the head branch, the north side, and they want to expansion of their businesses into the south and west. So this geographical distribution of the some managerial and expansion of the businesses that will goes to the decentralization. Am I right? And similarly, the management philosophy and availability of the managers and the pattern of the planning. These are all points similarly has quoted some of the factors to determining the degree of the decentralization. So availability of the managers, like there are numerous people are working into the organization. So number of managers are considering the head of departments. So as part of that different managers, they had taking up their roles and responsibilities that's affected the decentralization organization. Am I right? So the pattern of the planning also here one of the factor here quoted like the pattern of the planning. So while the planning is drafted, that's closely related to some pattern goes to be a decentralization organization. And controlled techniques. So this is also one such a good factor, the control techniques like control of the cost and expenditure and wastage, as well as the maintaining the resources in a particular way of like accomplishment of the jobs, as well as the duties and the managers. So the organization will affect like it is a decentralization. Am I right? And structure of the organization also, whether it is a flat structure of the organization or the wide structure of the like the narrow and as well as the tall structure of the organizations. The decentralization organization will look at on into various structures. Am I right? And environmental influences, some environmental influence like legal, ethical, and some political as well as some kind of societal related that will be considering when the organization has to be discharged, like as a dividing into their authority as well as the responsibility in sense of making the decentralization. Am I right? So that the factors here we comes to know the various points like size of the organization and history of the organization, and as well as the geographical factors and the availability of the managers and management philosophy and the pattern of the planning and control techniques, as well as we said the structure of the organization and environmental influence as much as factors determining the degree of the decentralization. And coming to what type of benefits to the decentralization is the decentralization organization can has a benefit. Yes, there are a lot of benefits are here. The first one is discussing like the decentralization reduces the burden to the top level executors. I mean, because the central point has hold so many of the work related activities are executive position, but decentralization can relaxation to the top level executives because they have to discharging their works as well as different roles to assigning their authority to all the divisional or the departmental heads. That's why it's one of the benefit we have observing in the decentralization. I mean, and coming to it, decentralization promotes growth, expansion, and the diversification. So this is one of the biggest benefit related to the organization, because when the organizations has comes to the growth perspective, we observe that there is a decentralization. Am I right? And as well as its business expansion is going, and as well as some like a branches or any subdivisions are taking point of to expansion their businesses, and some diversification as a new product implementation are taking new innovations to their services. It's one of the benefits to the organization has be a decentralized. I mean, and decentralization implies the problem of management succession. So this is also the management succession. The life of the management will be had without creating any problems, because when we see there are a number of board of directors are there in the organization, and some of the executives like a CEO, chief executive officer is there, and managing director is there, and other partners are everybody will have in the part of the business or business related activities. I mean, so when we have to cut down all their roles, and the organization will go to a decentralized. Suppose there is no comes to any error or conflicts related between them, and the management succession period has to be increased, and it goes to the very sustainable development way. Am I right? And coming to another, decentralization helps in taking a prompt and a right action. So it's clearly said because of that, every head they had a certain authority, so no need to had a waiting of until they received the central point like the head for their institution, because they had the decentralization position. So whatever they needed, the facilities and physical arrangements and availability of resource and discharging of all services, they are maintaining in a sequential way, and they are preparing their plans. Some needed any like and want to purchase or any kind of discharging duties, the authority will have the hand of the particular people in the department. So he need to wait until they have receiving the authority directions. Am I right? From the head of the institution. Am I right? That's one such a good benefit related to the decentralization. So it's to take the prompt decisions and the actions immediately. Another one, decentralization is to facilitate diversification of the product lines, and as well as decentralization motives to the subordinates for higher goals. Am I right? So every every individual who are the working as a subordinates, the decentralization concept, in a particularly we observing into the modern way of the businesses. So the subordinates can easily make to be as a higher motivated through their head of the departments or the coordinators. Am I right? And as we already discussed that the decentralization organization can have to effective controlling of various leads related to the discharging of activities into the organization. Am I right? So the decentralization, when we observing a big, more expansible organizations, and as well as there are ultimately they had a certain powers or certain information to providing to their subordinate also. Am I right? And coming to the decentralization benefit, after that we can say what is the limitation of this decentralization? So there are any limitations for the decentralization organization as it makes more difficult to have a uniform policy. Am I right? Because it's very difficult to have the uniform policy. That policy and procedures and programs is set by the top level management until they have to maintaining this policies. They assign the departmental policies, and as well as that policies to the various departmental related people. So here we are observing that whenever they have to make any policy that will be circulating to each and every department, because they had not considering that kind of uniform policies. So the one department to another department and one to another department has goes to a variety of functionality of their services. So here the management people, the top level management people can be had the difficult to maintaining that uniformities in the organization. And the another limitation of this decentralization is its increased complexity of coordination of various organization units. Am I right? So complexities will come just I said, one department to another department, and two to another four departments the organization. There are some difficulties while discharging their services or the operational activities, especially the coordination will goes to the complexity of the coordination will goes to increase. Am I right? So another thing may in the result loss of some control by upper level managers also here in the one of the limitation of the decentralization, and may be limited by the inadequate control techniques well followed by the top level management. So the decentralization has a one of the drawback. Am I right? So maybe constrained by the inadequate planning or controlling system, or it can be limited by the availability of the qualified managers. Am I right? When they have to assigning in the one south zone managers. So if there is a good and qualified people at the place the south, so it is a difficulty to functionality and to maybe look on into what is going on in the south zone as the south zone managers. If the south managers are inadequate and they are not performing well qualitative related to the work activities. Am I right? And involves considerable expenses for training managers. So this is also because the decentralization, the power and the authority, and as well as the each and every they had to maintain within their own perspective. Am I right? So that when considerable some training will needed to the managers related to how the top level management, the top level management can framing their objectives and they had to fulfilling their needs, and they should have comes to know what the organization while serving to the people. Am I right? So uniform maintaining of the uniform to all the departments, it's necessary to the management related activities to given such a good workshops or training programs, and that's a motivation related seminars to the fellow subordinates. Am I right? And so failing to this, I think the decentralization organization could not go to a sequential manner of discharging their services to the people. I mean, it comes to the decentralization may be limited by the external forces like national labor unions and government controls and like tax policies and others. Am I right? So that see this decentralization organizations, whenever the organization like a huge standable like the labor force as well as the labor union is a good reflect to the organization. This decentralization organization cannot exist. So that will be a centralized organization as we are looking into like a labor unions and government controls departments and government control organizations, whether they don't make like as a decentralization organization, because the center power and the authority and everything will be in the handover and the controlling it their bodies. Am I right? So these bodies, people who make not a easy to decentralize it. Am I right? And lastly, we say there is another limitation of this decentralization is that may not favor by economies of the scale of some operations. It's also such a good point related to decentralization when we can't unable to cut into the organization like the spreading a number of authoritative people when there is some economics of the scale of some operations. Am I right? And coming to see the other one, the other topic we have discussing today, that's called as the committee. Am I right? So committees are one such a good information related to handling and make some decisions to improvement of such a managerial activities in the organization. So the committees are very needful, and committees are a helpful like advisory as well as the some assistance to make a better improvement of the managerial activities. So coming to see the committee, why we need the committee and what are the committees, different types of the committees, and how the committees make very effective. Am I right? So a number of persons may come together to take a decision, decide a course of action, and advise line officers on some matters. It is a committee form of organization. Am I right? So the committee form of organizing, because we are already discussed so many forms of method or basis or methods of the organizations, like functional organization and customer oriented organization. Like some we are discussed so many departments in respect of their organizations. Am I right? In the form of a committee organization, what else here coming to a number of people maybe come together and they give some decisions, some advice, some of decided a course of actions to the line officers or some matters related like issue arising and implementation to the organizations, and promoted some kind of like taking the new involvement of work activities comes under to a committee organizations. Am I right? So committee is a method of collective thinking, corporate judgment, and common decisions. This is called as simple meaning. Committee is a method of collective thinking, cooperative judgment, and a common decision. Am I right? So a committee may be assigned some managerial functions or some advisory or some exploratory services may be expected from it. So host committee, we are all seen into hospitals. There are a lot of committees are involved while functioning and smoothly running of the healthcare facilities. Am I right? So built it as a method of attaching persons or group to line departments for advice and guidance in business planning and execution comes into the committees. Am I right? So sometimes there is a need to get opinion of other persons for taking important decisions only. Am I right? So because of collective information and analysis, committees are more likely to come up with a solution to the complex problem. Am I right? So that here we are also known to see in various healthcare organizations, committees will come and plan to give a exact execution of some problems or needed advisory services. Am I right? So coming to see what is the general meaning and committee and definition of the committees. And see, a committee may be defined as a group of people performing some aspects of managerial functions. Am I right? So it's a group of people. This group of people had a intellectual people. Yes, we can say there are intellectual people and well knowledgeable people, and they become as a different area of the specialized people also. That's the pooling of this the specialized people in a group, and they performing some aspects of the managerial function. So these managerial functions, that's anything like there is a problem solving, as well as they had given any kind of works, and they completed all general and as well as the operational and more satisfaction related to the business functionality. So the committee represent a group of persons to whom a matter has been committed. So a committee is a body of the persons appointed or elected to meet on an organized basis for the consideration of matters brought before it. Am I right? So generally the committees will make and as well as become a good structure as consideration of a appointment from the authorized peoples only. So not meeting so many people. The only the committee, whenever they form under the creation, it comes into a group of people. At least 3 to 4 people will needed into committee. Am I right? So here the committee, when they make creation and appointment of the chairperson is there with the fellow members. Am I right? So chairperson has taken the lead to their fellow members, and fellow members will comes to various their respective fields as well as their knowledge and intellectual areas. Am I right? That's why a committee is a body of the persons appointed or elected to meet on an organized basis for the consideration of matters. Am I right? So a committee is referred to as a board and commissions. Am I right? And a task force or a team. Generally, we are all said there are a task force members, or it is a team, a committee team, as it is comes to the board members or the commissions of the particular organizations. Am I right? So whatever to be the title is used, it is essential nature is the same. When we called the peer team. So peer team is especially we said that the committee people, and they come and they have to know the facts related to the organization. That's called the fact finding committee or the peer teams. Am I right? So any name or the title, but their ultimate essential nature is the same. Like they have comes to making of a group of the people, and they have undergone the issue and the problem and find a suitable solution to the organization. Am I right? So committees are generally formed as formal bodies with a defined structure like executive committee, purchase committee, bonus committee, works committee, safety committee, medical audit committee, pharmaceutical committees, CPR committee, transfusion committee, quality assurance core committee, and grievance committee. May I think in hospitals, in every hospitals, there are 12 committees are there. Am I right? So major, there are 12 committees are there, and in extends to while discharging their services or maintaining some a structure-wide commitment of their organizational works, there may be at least 15 to 20 or more committees we are observed. Am I right? So in every organization, the executive committee is there. The executive committee, and we call executive committee member. So EC member, and there is a purchase committee. So executive committees are needed for taking the advisory to run the organization in a effective manner. And purchase committee, here the purchase committee is a committee where they are pooling of the people so needed purchase purchase items into the hospital, like equipment selection or machinery selection or some resources selection, am I right? And some other office furniture they want to selection. So this purchase committee has comes to decided how much of the quantity and the quality we needed to purchase, and as well as how we are sustainable to taking the various spare parts or machineries or other related matters of the organization. Am I right? And a bonus committee for bonus preparation and bonus issue and bonus redemption, and as well as the increasing of the sales salaries and other things comes into the bonus committee. And comes to works committee. So works committee also on such a important into hospitals, and a works committee decided the civil related works, especially the physical arrangements of the hospital and building as well as other part of the civil works involved into this committee people. And safety committee, as per the safety committee also one such a good committee related to the hospital. So safety committee like infection prevention committee, and this committee, and there is a chairperson, and similarly there are a member of the peoples of hospital involved into the safety committee. And safety committee prevent the safety of the patients and the safety of the staff, and as well as the safety needed to the whole hospital. Am I right? So hazardous and or other infectious related everything they had comes and solve any issues or anything like fire safety or chemical safety and some other safety related to the patients and the organization. And medical audit committee, so this is also one committee like coming to the medical superintendent, and he with him there is a auditing like internal audit, and that audit will give like a case sheet analysis and the audit of internal people, so to check any medical errors will have function in discharging of the services. Am I right? And so medical audit will take the point of how the each and every medical related practitioners is going into the hospital. Am I right? And pharmaceutical committee. So this is also one committee related to pharmacy, and here the pharmacy committees are taking the related actions of the purchasing of the pharmacies and the expiries and new pharmaceutical related issues and problems they can have to take the handle of this committee people. Am I right? So the pharmaceutical committees are considering more related to the pharmacy handling and the required safety and the what we say, there is a medical drugs or some other part of the hospital, how far they are purchasing and used and unused, and as well as thrown into the waste disposals. Am I right? So CPR committee, so this is also one committee like a cardiopulmonary respiration committee. So this CPR also has helpful right like the patients. So this committee has aware to the patients, the workers who a functional related to save the life of the patients. Am I right? So here the CPR committee and another one transfusion committee. So transfusion committee also is necessary while making the safety needed of the transfusion, like blood or blood related issues arise into the hospital. Am I right? So hematology head of the department who make this committee, and he had to be the chairperson, and he may have to be that knowing exactly the blood levels and various blood groups availability in the hospital, and how the committee they have to come and knowing exactly the discussions related to the improper utilization of various blood as well as the safety needed for the required patients at the time of the process. Am I right? So quality assurance core committee. So this is also one such a good, we say, the quality assurance core committee. Here the quality parameters related to the hospitals like NABH or NABL or other hospital aggregation, like accreditations to implementation of this accreditations. The quality department, like quality assurance core committee, as will form, and they had made to every issues when raised as well as how to prevent the infection and how to maintain the hospital with the quality and get more NABH or JCA or other NABL or other accreditations to the hospitals. Am I right? So another one, there is a grievance committee. So this is also in every healthcare organization. So the grievance handling, residual handling committee is there. So grievance committee as taking the point of handling of all the grievance patient related issues arise on the patient related grievance handling or else the staff related grievance handling. Am I right? So the grievance handling is given the right of the patient and the responsibility of the patient. So the grievance committee will constitute and serves to the organization, especially for this patient related more feedbacks or the collection of their related grievance, and they have to handling that grievance with very smoothly. Am I right? And other things, any harassments in the staff or anything like harassment or other like abuses or any other sexual harassment or other thing it will be in a grievance committee, and the grievance committee will teach the lesson to the people who make some illegal practices to the fellow staff members or with the patients or the admitted people. Am I right? So the board of directors constitutes an important committee at the highest level. So it is a policy making decision taking body. Am I right? So decision taking the body will have to be seen into this committee. Am I right? So that a committee is very needed and important to discharging the services of the hospitals. Am I right? And coming to the discussion, the purpose of the committee. Why this committee is as any importance? This committee is the committees and the task forces are set up the purposes related to the organization, or the committees are a good form where organizational members freely exchange their ideas. Am I right? So because of all the peoples will come and sit into a group people, and they have to discharging all the necessary information and implementing in the future actions. So a good form of peoples will come and sit and discussion various points. So it's a very purposive needed in the committees into the every organization, especially into the hospitals. Am I right? So with the exchange of these ideas, some suggestions and recommendations can be generated. Am I right? So that may be prove useful to the organization. Am I right? So they are intellectual and knowledgeable people, so they comes into freely exchanging their ideas, so that the ideas and some suggestions and recommendation can be granted that may be very benefited or proved useful to the organization. Right. And other thing is that the existing problems in the organization. So that can be discussed and some new ideas for the solving these problems can be introduced. Am I right? So the existing problems in the organization, that's organizational related problems and issues or some kind of any matters can have to discuss through this committee people. That's way the problems can be has comes to one such a good resolutions, and that will be comes to the solving of various issues or the problems into the hospitals as well as various departments. Am I right? And coming to the purpose of these committees are like some committees are specially formed to assist in the development and establishment of the organizational policies. So these are the like quality control, quality assurance core committees, or we have discussed the quality assurance committees, and there's a grievance handling committee. So this grievance handling committee also, that specially formed committees. That's we know that the feedback related to the patients as well as the visitors who make given a chance what we have to taken some developments into in future. Am I right? So that's the establishment of the organizational policies or anything we have to a successor taken of the committees. Am I right? So see, there are a lot of advantages also including this committees formation of the organization. So that's the one is that pooling of the opinions. This we are discussed that the committee people are members who are well knowledgeable people. They are come and they are taking their opinions related to a lot of solving of the various issues or the problems. So there ultimately we said that the knowledgeable people where they're using their opinions or the ideas that comes to a under pooling, that's a good advantageable to solving is such a good like issues and various functionalities of the organization. Am I right? And better coordination. So here we said better coordination. Some take the example of this quality assurance core committee has been formed in the hospitals. So here there are involvement of major all departmental heads, like nursing superintendent, housekeeping in charge, and medical superintendent, and various hospital like departmental heads can come, and they have to make to a good relationship with this all committee people. That's denote a better coordination will comes into the hospitals. Am I right? And balancing of views and some motivation. So balancing of views, we let's see at the time of the committee resolutions, and highlighting some points related to the views of the experts. Am I right? So here, whenever we have to collected some kind of, whenever we have to collected some kind of works related to the committee people, obviously which of the departmental people has not interested to come to solving of that issues. So the committee core committee peoples or the members of the committee peoples will give chance motivation to their fellow peoples. Am I right? So this is exactly the advantageable for using of the committee formation of the organization, and some discussion of power and a better acceptance of the decisions also. One such a good advantageable to the using of committee formation into the organization. Am I right? Because dispersion of the powers here, the committee peoples will come, there all authoritative people will come, so they have to discussion what is the process of overcoming of a particular problem or the issues, and let them they have certain powers to like delegating to the other departments, and as well as delegating to the powers into the co-fellow group of the peoples in the committee. So it's given a good advantageable to the people to make them the issues like the problems in a very easy manner. Am I right? So that's one good advantageable, and as well as like a better acceptance of the decisions also. So the decision makings will come into the committees. So committee under this committee, people will come and discuss various issues related to their plan, how to how to taking of this implementation of the resolution, and what makes into further, and what is the happening of the organization. So they are the discussion going on, so that the decision and the discussions will make to acceptance if that comes to better way of position of the managerial related works. Am I right? So as a better communications also will come here. As a good advantageable of the committees, I will say there is a better communication between all the departments, because a committee will make and come together, and the discussions started to taking such a end result. So that means all of the department peoples will come, and automatically the communication will reaches to each and every people of the organization. So it's denoted that the good coordination will come, and automatically the work comes very effectively and efficient manner. Am I right? And committees, the advantages is executive training also. Am I right? And coming to the disadvantages of committee. So what is the advantage we have discussed? What type of disadvantages of the committee? So there are any disadvantages? Yes. If some more organizations, they had a lot of difficulties of the formation of a committee organizations. Am I right? So committees goes most dangerous when they did not had followed sufficient rules or procedure. Am I right? So it arises the biggest conflicts between the members and as well as the chairpersons. So delay, that is one disadvantages. So committee has taken a long time when they want to discuss or implementing some taken decisions. So it's happening. There is a lot of time taken, and sometimes the committee has not make a proper way of doing and given a lot of information, and it goes to some delay works, as well as something has not come to overcoming of the related works. Am I right? So delay is happening if somebody like when committee is started, but there are number of members of the committee is not attending, automatically the committee is not going to discussion. The committee could be wind up, and they decided to given another time or the date of to meeting. Am I right? So this type of delay will not as a good solution for the organizational matters. Am I right? And no accountability also we are observing into the committee, whereas some of the committees, not as a total, but some of the committees they don't have the accountability of the memberships as well as the chairperson and other fellows. Am I right? So simply they are given only the decisions, but not considering their accountability. That's the difficulty we are observing into some committees. And the domination by the some members. This is one of the major disadvantage of the committee, because there are a lot of knowledgeable people, like experts people will sit around and and they are around in a one place one time, and one particular topic they are discussing, and given their opinions or their decisions or advices. Here is coming the domination, because one head will dominate to the other people, and other heads can dominate it, and he simply has not considering the points given by someone. Am I right? So here is comes to one disadvantages, because the seniority and the qualifications and other expertise opinions can comes to dominate, and it's create to some strained relations. Am I right? So strained relations will come, and no people will come and discuss in again, because after the committee will disperse, the committee members will go and discuss another related issues, like he spoken like that, and he has taken this decision, and he had taking his care, or he had not at all concentrating that point, like so many rumors or so many like other way of communications will go to happening in more times of this committee formation of the organization. Am I right? So obviously the strained relations will come. So the biggest conflicts arised between one people, like one head or the another head of the departments. Am I right? So that a committee organizations, we must have to what we say, the relations, the communication, and we must have to like considering all the people like decisions, and then we have to discussions that decisions and comes to one final. Am I right? And lack of effectiveness also. So here also such a biggest drawback of this committee organizations, or there is a lack of effectiveness while pooling of the group of peoples. So here the committee peoples, definitely we understand that one people is the leading, like he is the chairperson, and all other are the members. So here members, definitely there comes to all field of their specializations, whether they are marketing, they are HR, they are finance, they are operations, they are other service related heads. Am I right? So this example I have shown to you now. So these people, like they are all related perspective managers. So whenever we not considering like the knowledgeable people, and we can involve with a general people in the committees, so that comes to ineffective manner of giving the decisions, because the committee will give exact and direct solving of the problem, and as well as giving their resolutions to overcoming certain burden of the organizations, and they make some recommendations like advisory services to comes to a particular platform of the organizational activities. Am I right? So coming, we'll see how to avoid this disadvantages of the committee and comes to successful operations of the committees. Am I right? So to ensure effective committee operations, there are a lot of successfulness we need, and as well as encouraging to the committee people. Am I right? So one of the first one is that define the scope, purpose, and authority of the committee clearly. So here is one of the major one. Definitely we have to defining the scope and purpose of why they are like a committee constructed as a committee, and what is their scope and what type of authority are there, and everything should mention. That's will called as the agenda. Am I right? So the agenda, that agenda compulsorily to circulate to all their membership people where they are located into the organization. So that's everything will circulate that agenda through the circular or the notice as the printed paper, or it will be displayed into the notice board, or else it will be the send it to some SMSs or the email to the particular members. That the scope and purpose, there is a purpose, we are the agenda, and functions related to why the committee is there and what is will come at the end after the discussion. And authority, they mention who is the chairperson, who is the supportive people, and who is the member peoples of this committee, and who are the other supporting peoples are involved. Am I right? And here we know the authority people like the chairperson, he had to started the agenda, like the what the organization and what the committee want to be make it and how they are going to give in a good solvency. Am I right? So other successful operation of the committee is a time and cost. Am I right? So committee, when they meet, not only has given the purposes like the agenda, but also they mention which time and which date and which place and what type of necessary cost will be affected for that committee. Everything we have to notice for the construction of the committees. Because of that, every quarter or the 6 months, we have or else the annually so many committees will have constructed for solving the problems. So here we can understand the time moment, how far the committee is going on and how type of discussion is held within the given time. Am I right? So personal prejudice, undefined roles. And this is also very such a good point here highlighted to know the personal prejudice and like undefined roles. Here, when committees, suppose we have to know like a unproperable committee people, they use their personal stamina or they have to forcibly they have to forcibly and taking full related matters to discussions with avoiding of the fellow members and there are undefined roles also here creating and that much of undefined roles will create some conflicts and there is the biggest problems to the committee members. Am I right? And other is that large link. So large link also like a political interest and the purpose. So obviously we are also observing this largely in nowadays also. Other than the part of the subject or the matter related to the organization, some political interests like the local political or the local or other the ruling political or any kind of people, they had a played a interest related to the given their own problem solving solutions in a particular making of the committees. Am I right? So this we should avoiding this political interest and purposes. So the committee's operations will go very successful. And the strain on interpersonal relations. So avoiding the interpersonal relations also and select committee members carefully and limit their numbers. This is also one such a good point related to the successful operation of the committees. Because of that, the committee members, when we selected, compulsorily they had a good knowledgeable experts and they are judgmental people and moreover they are a analytical people to solve a particular problem or the given a suitable solution. So that we need to a selection of the committee members are very careful and that will be very limited in their numbers. Am I right? And provide the training. So committee members, they must needed to providing such a training to them also. Because of that, without a proper training, they may not had a handling of such a good making the decisions with the clear problems. Am I right? And evaluating its performance periodically, like if quarterly committee is came and they have decided a lot of discussions and then after completion of the committee and they make another quarter, they're ready to started their discussions and making the committee. So the chairperson will ask to the people who attending the earlier committee meetings and let you know what is the progress of the work and how far the decisions and implementation is going into the organization. That must be had put into the agenda and that's sufficient like allocation of the budget and select an effective chairman with the competence experience also here of the one of the point related to a good and success of the committees and do the formal meeting agenda. This is such a good one because every committee meeting we look into the hospitals or any organization. It's a very formal way. So the formal way meetings like we before has given the information through the circular or the notice And when the day of the committee meeting, we just have to call to the members and inform to them, join to the committee meeting and carry their inputs and need to submit the earlier progress, everything that will be in a proper agenda. Am I right? And prescribed formal procedures also there, because they're maintaining some records at the time of the committee. So they're writing the minutes of the meeting, like the proper procedures will comes to the minutes of the meeting, and maintaining there are a lot of records. And if any attending of the member, he had to putting his signature, and he maintained to and collection of some records, various records to the attended people. Am I right? And provide appropriate adequate assistance and taken follow-up, and a lack of effectiveness due to the management domination. See, it's a very biggest one. Already we are discussed that the lack of effectiveness is missing while a form of the committee, and some due to dominations and everything has occurred unsuccessful of the committee. So avoiding these all points, the committees are go to the successful, and every problem or issues will carry the lot of solutions. And here you can look at on this, I capture one committee, that's a quality assurance core committee as in hospital. So agenda is like that, is a previous committee meeting of the minutes and committee's accountability and composition, and meeting of the conducting quality assurance activities, and like any approvals or implementation, and they taken any updates related to the meeting, earlier meetings, and anything they have to collection at the agenda. And observe that this is the team members. So whereas you can look at on that there is some designation of a managing director, so he held it as a chairperson, and comes to medical director and chief operating officer and quality in charge and general physician and gynecologist. These are all are members of this quality assurance core committee, and various departmental heads will come and act as the members, gynecologist, pediatrician, and a nephrologist, and a neurophysician, pulmonologist, and surgical gastrology, and critical care medicine, and HR in charge, and deputy nursing superintendent, and maintenance in charge, and medical record in charge, as well as biomedical in charge, and stores in charge, and IT in charge, and pharmacy in charge, like housekeeping people, and everybody will comes and act as a members, while as coming to a quality assurance core committee. Am I right? And this is we have to concluding our topic and comes to the summary. So here we are given the discussed class today, that the relative information of the centralization and the decentralization. So exactly we are discussed the decentralization is refers to the systematic effort to delegate to the lowest levels at authority, as kept that which can be only be expressed at the central point. Am I right? So decentralization is concerned with the placement of the authority with reference to the responsibility. Am I right? So at the end, we have to today the lecture I just given the concept of committee management and its relative merits as well as the demerits. Also I have to present it. Am I right? So in this, I just want to conclude, and